Hello and welcome to this episode of Akrinos Access Live. I'm your host, Eric Matei, joined today by the one and only Kayla Ashlee. Kayla, hello. Thank you for joining us.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here. This is always such a good time with you.
Awesome. Well, we're super excited to have you here. And as a matter of fact, we were so excited, we almost forgot to hit the go live button at our start time. But reason being is because what we're talking about here is something that's a really important topic, and that is developing your modern eye care dream team. And the reason being is because, let's face it, with that dream team behind that practice owner, that independent optometrist, that independent optician growing their business, right? With that dream team behind them, oh my goodness, anything is possible, right?
Absolutely.
But without the dream team behind them, it's going to be like trying to push a boulder up a mountain. So, again, Kayla, I know we got a lot of great stuff to jump into. So what do you say we jump right in?
Let's do it.
Fantastic. Okay, so to kick it all off, let's start with talking about, what do you see as being like the role of people development in the modern practice?
The role of people development. I think the role of developing people and developing your team is more important now in modern optometry and the modern practice than ever before, because so much of our industry has modernized and is forcing some of the independent practitioners to modernize as well. So, the thing with online opticals is that they're sexy and they're cool and they get your patient's attention. And so before, where we didn't really have to put that much work into developing our team, now when you do, you reap the benefits, right? You start to see your patients staying there in the office, and you start to modernize. When you're modernizing your team and your practice as a whole, the availability for people to develop in that role is so much better, and they're going to be able to keep your patients there in the office. So I think the role of development now is more important now than ever before.
Love it. I could not agree more. And I tell you what, I'm gonna pick one of those things and kind of run with it. Something that you said a few times there, as far as just this opener of a question of what do you see the role of people development in the modern practice, but that is the patient journey. So how do you see, and I think it's interesting right now as more and more that patient journey is perhaps engaging digitally. So now what role do the people in office play to that patient journey?
Well, the patient journey used to be, once the patient was there in the office, then you take them on back and you do their testing and you take them back to the doctor, and hopefully the doctor is going to sell from the chair, and then you take them to the optician, and the optician is going to, take that hand off beautifully. And then, hopefully they buy and then they leave. But that's not really the dynamics anymore. We've got so many other things at play now. So the patient journey now, with some of the opportunities that we have with, products like Optify, little Optify plug, sorry, but
Boom,
you can start the patient journey right before they even come in for their visit. So they can actually start looking at your products online through your own website that's right there in the office, so that they can start picking them out and putting them in the cart, so that when they get there, they can try them on. So we're starting the journey faster. And then once the patient is there, the patient journey, once you're there with the rest of your team, rather than your front desk person just being a front desk person, or your pre-tester just being a pre-tester, now they're having conversations with their patients where the patient might make a comment like, oh, I saw these frames that I really liked on this really sexy, app that I saw. That's an online distributor that we won't talk about, but they're having conversations.
Hey, you can name names. You can name names here. Akrinos is all about naming names.
So basically the patient is talking about, these experiences with the pre-testers and things like that. By the time they get back to the doctor, sometimes the pre-testers, handing off a chart or a piece of paper going, hey doc, they're going to take their prescription online. It's going to be an exam only. rather than having now, if you have a complete modernized practice where you're able to actually have every person on the team be able to speak to and have conversations with, oh, well, you know what, patient, that you're going to take your stuff online. Here's what we have, and I'm excited to show you blah, 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 blah. So a modernized, I guess tool that we have now is to be able to educate your team and develop those roles. So it's not just, oh, I'm here to pre-test and send you on your way.
Yeah, yeah. You know, that's fascinating. You struck a couple of really interesting points there. I think one is that changing patient journey, right? And realizing that while a lot of it may be digitized, increasingly digitized in a self-service function, what that actually does is that then frees up the staff in office, the team in office, to become that dream team. Because I think you and I both know the dream team is not spending hours on end receiving phone calls or on hold with managed care and this and that and the other. The dream team is always going to be patient facing across all facets of the patient journey. So that's really cool for you to point out. Okay, so we're talking people development. We're talking people development in this modern era and impacting the patient journey. Well, now let's talk to it a little bit from the standpoint of, you know, how do your people impact practice economics, right? Because, and I know we're going to perhaps touch on this later in this conversation, and we don't have to go too far off the deep end, but I think it's important as we're talking about people development for our audience to understand the win-win of having that dream team on your side. So Kayla, perhaps you could share a little bit regarding, and I think probably some firsthand experience where you've seen practices become more profitable as a result of not looking for the best deals and rebates here and there, but rather taking the time to focus internally and develop their people. Why don't you speak to some of the results you have seen with the profitability increasing due to developing your team?
Absolutely. So when it comes to basically, you know, the economics of a practice and how it works, right? So many doctors kind of get stuck in this role, or practice owners or optical owners get stuck in this role of, you know, saving themselves. I'm going to save, I'm going to save, I'm going to save, I'm going to save. Well, you can't save yourself to full profitability. You just can't. And so some people kind of get stuck in that little rut over there where, you know, the offices that do take the time to really engage their team and provide tools and education for them to be successful are much more successful and have much greater profitability because, you know, you might be able to save $3 on that stinking frame that you bought in bulk, or you can have the optician that's going to sell the heck out of that frame. And it doesn't matter how expensive it is, you're going to make at least your markup the whole time, right? So the opportunities and the economics of being able to invest in a team is highly, highly valuable. And the profitability is absolutely monumental. And that's why, you know, we have, you know, with one of our resources, one of our biggest ones, one of our most watched of all of our courses by far is our new hire training course, because so many doctors have, you know, and owners as a whole have this new thing where, you know, it's hard. You got people that aren't staying, right? Everyone's got problem with hiring and you know, turnover and whatnot. Well, it's really hard once you have someone there and you're sitting there in the back of your mind, oh gosh, are they going to leave? Are they going to leave? Are we going to get a text tomorrow that they're not even going to be here and we wasted 2 weeks training them and everything else? Yeah. Having these resources as part of, I guess, a modern way of training them too, which, you know, plugging myself here, but a modern way of training them too helps to be able to allow for this to be able to happen in a more economical way, that you don't have to take everybody off the floor in order to have a proper training to build up that perfect team. So
absolutely. I love it because, again, Kayla, I mean, and I know we've discussed this plenty, right? In that, man, your people, if you can have the support of your people, you know, a lot of folks think it's just about like, oh, let me overcome this retention problem, this retention issue that a lot of practices are struggling with these days. Yeah, exactly. But realizing ultimately that authentic people development not only cures that retention piece, but also unlocks that profit piece, which I love you sharing some of that, again, firsthand that you're seeing, you know, and I know, and by the way, viewers, audience, we're going to be jumping into Spexy and some of the work that Kayla does at Spexy specifically. And if you're short on time, you want to hop over to it right now, definitely go check out the site. Some really far out stuff, but it all revolves around the concept that the shared idea and belief that people development is the key to retention. It's the key to collaborative culture, and it's the key to profitability, right? Absolutely. So, okay. So for those just joining us, I'm here hanging out, Akrinos Access Live, having a conversation with Kayla Ashlee about developing your modern eye care dream team. And Kayla, I'm excited now to shift the conversation into a topic that I know we were speaking quite a bit prior to going live here, and that is the role of people development across stages of the practice life cycle, right? So let's start with cold starts, right? I mean, these are new practice owners and they're new employees to this new practice. So let's talk about the importance and role of people development for the cold start practice.
Yeah. So the cold start, I mean, this is one where, you want to say, the people development is the most important. Develop your team. It's the most important part here. But, as I think through the different life cycles, I think they're all the most important. But the biggest things to focus on with the cold start is obviously going to be, you're bringing on a team, and this team is not only going to be, starting up a brand new business. They're starting up a brand new business in eye care. So they've got all the dynamics of eye care plus the brand new business. So the biggest thing with the cold start is going to be developing basically profiles and rules and I guess processes in the office. It's going to be really, really vital, because so many doctors, when you talk to cold start doctors, a few years later, they're like, if I only would have known that it would have been so much better if I had this process in place first. So the cold start is really developing your people and also developing a process for your people to be able to manage themselves in. And so that's where we find the biggest opportunity with the cold start is really developing your team, getting them comfortable with things that are going on. But again, those processes are vitally important, because the doctors never run those processes before either.
Right. Yeah. Love it. Love it. And as you know, I mean, we are all about process, right? I mean, that's really what it's all about. Okay. So we're talking cold start, focusing on how to develop. So for all you doctors out there that are going to be cold started, maybe you're in the process, maybe it's still a dream, right? But when you get to that point of developing your people, remember, it's all about process. The more processes you can have dialed in, the better a launch pad you're going to be setting up for your team when they come on board. So Kayla, now let's shift from that cold start, who is presumably a first-time business owner, and presumably their first time employing folks. And they will also, I mean, think about the cold start, they're going to be starting with typically no more than 2 hires out of the block. Okay. Right. So now, so now let's shift gears and think about.
Well, actually, before we shift gears, I'm going to interrupt really quick. I'm sorry.
Go for it.
A really important thing with that cold start that I failed to mention is that they don't know what they don't know. Right? Like nobody in life knows what you don't know. And so it's vitally important. I'm going to give you a plug here as well, where it's vitally important that you have on your side people that know, that know how to set forth these processes. So because you don't know what you don't know, you can only get so much on the online forums. We've got courses on being able to set certain leadership things up. But as far as having, something like Akrinos on your side is vital in order to make sure that you know what you don't know, because Akrinos knows. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Boom, done. and I'll also say this: even if you go to our website and see all the tutorials and resources, even if you don't, if you're a 100% DIYer, at least drop us a line in the socials and say, "Hey, Akrinos, your videos helped me all on my cold start." That'd be great. Okay, so getting back to we're talking cold starts. Now let's talk, Kayla, about purchases, right? Because this is really interesting, right? Because oftentimes, particularly, we work with a lot of doctors helping them purchase practice. So it's fascinating to see you got someone that it's their first time in business ownership and their first time leading, developing people. But it's one thing if you're cold starting, you're kind of you can be very selective in who you're choosing. And you can also kind of build it very organically from like just a couple of folks. But if you're purchasing a practice, you're going to be inheriting 4, 6, perhaps 8 or 10 veterans of that practice. So talk a little bit about the importance of people development regarding taking over that practice, purchasing that practice.
Yes. So when a practice is recently purchased, it's kind of funny when we have a product called Frame Turn where we take the frame data, and I can tell just by looking at their frame data if this was a practice that was purchased within like the past 2 to 3 years. It's that significant because when you inherit all those patient, files, you inherit all the good, right? You got a building, you're established. You also inherit a lot of the crap that was left behind, or that went completely unmanaged, or that they thought was managed but really wasn't. So, it's like when it comes to frames, you have frames that are, oh, we've got 2,000 frames. Cool. It's all of the stuff that everybody didn't want.
Sure. Yeah. Right.
But the same thing goes when you inherit a team. So you inherit a team that the hard part is that they're tenured, right? They come in, they know what they're doing, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that they're doing things in the best, most economical way, in the most, refined way. Maybe they just didn't give a cahoot about anything, and they just were collecting a paycheck for 25 years. We run into a lot of those. So being able to have a resource where you can easily walk in as the new practice buyer and go, okay, so we're going to implement these new procedures. I know that things are going to be new. And we have, let's say, this training that we want everyone to go through, new people and the tenured people. We want everyone to go through it because we want to get everyone's feedback. We want to get everyone on the same page about things. And this is where we want to be, is vitally important, that you're not just stepping on toes everywhere, because you want to keep the team. But at the same time, it's also a purging opportunity too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think what I'm hearing here is you want to, for starters, embrace everyone that's there. Right. But I think number two, and really I think is really the number one, is it's important for new practice owners to assert themselves as the new owner, leader, and ultimate level manager of the organization. And I know this is something that for many new practice owners, it's uncomfortable. It's natural. I mean, look, hey, Kayla, prior you launching Spexy, prior to me launching Akrinos, I didn't know what this was. No one knows until you do it. You know what I mean? Name whatever entrepreneurial guru you look up to. If it's, whoever it may be, until you're there, you said it earlier in our conversation. You don't know what you don't know. But something for our audience out there, if you've recently purchased a practice, something you definitely want to do is do not shy away from being the owner and ultimate decision maker in the practice. Be the leader. Step up. Be assertive. You can be assertive and communicate with a smile on your face, right? As a matter of fact, that's a lot of, and we're not going to talk about it in this conversation, but a lot of it's for like how you deliver stuff to people, how you're going to get that engagement. But fascinating stuff. So while we're talking about people developing at different stages, for those of you just joining us, we're talking about developing the modern eye care dream team with Kayla Ashlee from Spexy. And we were talking about developing your team at different stages. So if you're cold starting or recently cold started, it's all about process. If you recently purchased a practice, it's all about assertiveness and really pulling those reins in to get everybody rowing in the same direction as your vision. Third, Kayla, and I know this is something, we hop into any of the online communities on any given day, and we're liable to see a dozen anonymous posts from a practice owner in any town in America that's struggling, right? Yeah. They're struggling to retain their team. They're struggling to engage their team. And oftentimes when you look at those, they're also kind of maybe struggling to get to that next level in production or profitability. So why don't you speak a little bit about, kind of the role of people development for the established practice? Hey, we've been here. It has been the same people all together for years. How do we breathe that breath of fresh air into development and stuff like that? Why don't you share some of your experience in getting established teams to really come together and achieve the next level?
Yes. So with an established team, so unlike a recently purchased team, usually a recently purchased, the doctor owner, whoever is fresh and can come in and they go, oh gosh, we got some stuff to clean up here. And, they can see that with their fresh eyes. There's stuff to clean up. They just don't know exactly how to make it all happen. right? Now with the established practice, this is a doctor that maybe started cold start umpteen million years ago, right? Learned all the stuff that they should have, wish they, should have, would have, could have, wish they would have known, right? And then, they went through this process where they're just rocking, going. And this happens with everything in life, not just opticals, but in everything in life, you start to kind of get comfortable. And you just start to keep doing the same old thing and not really adapting, modernizing, not really, changing things up a lot unless you're forced to. And so often when it comes to established practices, the only times that they're really forced to change things is when staff changes. Right. So you might have that staff member that's been there forever. And then you might have this one position that just keeps turning over because it's just so darn hard to find things. Right. Sure. So the biggest thing when it comes to an established practice, as far as developing your people, is really finding where the practice needs to grow. And usually it's all specifically in their people development. So you might start, those people that are struggling that you're talking about that are in the online forums, they're struggling because they're having a hard time keeping people. Well, maybe Mary, the, lead optician, is just kind of comfortable in doing her own little thing, which is a human thing. We all do it, but let's find some way to keep Mary motivated, which would get the rest of the team motivated. And, it could be as easy as development and things like, setting routine, what we call them check-ins, but routine check-ins that come to basically reviews, right? You do an annual review and then you check in with everyone every quarter. That's really, really, really important for established practices. If you're not doing that, once you start doing that, it'll start developing your team very, very quickly.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Yes. Like a rocket ship. Us and the rocket ships. We love rocket ships. Bunch of space cowboys and cowgirls. Really great stuff. Awesome. So for those of you just joining us, thank you for joining us here on Akrinos Access Live, hanging out with Kayla Ashlee. We are talking about developing your modern eye care dream team. It's been a really great episode. So again, if you are just tuning in, definitely go back to the very beginning. So Kayla, now I'd like to kind of shift this a little bit to what do you see as being those hurdles, right? Like, because I know we can sit here, we can talk about this stuff, and I'm sure anyone that's viewing this is like, oh, it's all, rainbows and unicorns. Okay. But there are things that can kind of get in the way of developing the team and being consistent with that. So why don't you share just, some of those common watch outs so that folks are prepared as they embark in this, really owning people development in their practice?
Yeah. So the biggest thing when it comes to people development, I would say let's just start with, your new hires, your youngest people there. When you have people that are starting in your practice, it's vitally important that you give them the foundation necessary to be successful in this ultra super dynamic optical world, right? We've got fashion, we've got, science, we've got all of this, insurance that we have to deal with and sales, and it's medical, and there's all these different things, right? It's really hard for someone new to the practice, especially new to eye care, to be able to really take that in. And so I would start with those people, because if you can get those people being the most effective and efficient and big contributors as part of your team, it's going to allow the rest of the team to take on these changes that you're trying to implement. So when Mary is trying to cover for the new girl up front, because the new girl, was never completely taught the right way to do things, it makes it much harder on the rest of the team. And we all know that, we have typically about 5 people in a practice, some much bigger, some much smaller, but usually averages around 5 to 8 different team members. If you take one team member off the floor to train this new person, you're now down 3 people. Right. And so something's got to give, because the whole practice keeps running like it's supposed to, And so I would really focus with your new hires to make sure, or newest hires, to make sure that they're really comfortable with the foundation of optics and understanding how the practice is run, and understanding, all of the different processes in the office and how you can optimize those. So that's where I would start, is with those people.
Awesome. And I think by way of that also, I mean, if we go back to talking about what's one of these hurdles and constraints, dare I say it's perhaps the most tenured employees of the team. I mean, and that's just
that's number two.
Now there are going to be outliers. Okay,
yes.
So by all means, if you were a manager or a lead optician or a head tech in a practice watching this, don't think that Eric and Kayla are saying, "Oh, veteran people, you're slowing it down."
Oh,
not
no,
at all.
no,
We're
no.
not saying that. But I think it's important, and a theme throughout this conversation, Kayla, a theme throughout the conversation is all about change.
Yes.
Because we're all human.
Yes.
And we come to settle into our ways of doing things. And our ways of doing things can be good. They can be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
But a common theme that I know we resonate a ton on, right? You all and what you're leading at Spexy and what we're leading at Akrinos, and that is the modernization and realizing that just because things have been done this way for 20 or 30 years, that's got us where we are now. You know, the way things have been done for 20 or 30 years is what's getting practices to be $1 million practice with a 35% net. Why? Because I don't know, somewhere along the way, somewhere along the narrative, that's become the norm. And I think that now we're to a time where the modern practice, why do we have to stop there? And people development, I believe, is a critical piece to helping practices, helping modern practices truly like redefine what does it mean to be a modern practice from a performance standpoint, you know?
Yeah. And dovetailing off that went right into, my second point. That's exactly right. You have the most tenured people in your office can be the most stubborn and not willing to change, but they can also be the most hungry and eager to change when they see something different out there.
Ooh,
and we were really surprised with when we started because our first big course that we really launched was our new hire course, still the most popular, right? And the biggest amount of feedback, I would say probably if I had to count it out, I would say out of every 5, internal reviews that we get on the platform, that I would say about 3, maybe 4 of them are not from the person enrolling in it. Like we get theirs too, but we get from the same office, we'll get multiple, and we'll get some from the managers too, or the leadership, especially when they're new to Spexy, because what they're doing is they'll say, you know what, I've been an optician for 15 years and I had no idea that this was a cool way that you could insert these nose pads, or I had no idea that, that's how effective power worked. They've been through multiple CEs. And they didn't know that that's how effective power works, just because we explain it in a little different way and we modernize the way of, using technology to be able to explain things rather than just looking at a lens, which is good. Rather than just looking at a lens, we use technology to be able to explain it. It's pretty amazing. And so we found that, the tenured sometimes, like I said, can be the most stubborn and changing, but they can also be the most hungry because they were like, I had no idea. And if I would have had this when I first started, it would have been great. So yeah, we find that, with the most tenured people in the office, even though they might, need it and might not want it, a lot of times when you modernize the practice, if you can get everyone on the same page, it's way more powerful in being able to produce, more for your office. And when I say tenured, I also mean the doctors too. The doctors as well, because we send the doctors through a lot of our trainings as well, with the things that they need to be saying back in the exam room, because doctors get all freaked out, with selling. They're like, oh, I don't want to sell. Oh, I don't want to sell. But the reality is that we're selling them a really, beneficial product that's going to benefit their lives. But doctors are never taught, just like opticians, really, we're never taught the verbiage of what to say in sales. Sure. So I'm getting off on a tangent here. Sorry, but this is great.
I was going to say this is another episode.
What to say in sales. And so what happens is if you don't know what to say and you don't know how to approach that person in the psychology of the conversation, you end up basically putting that person on the defense. They're like, whoa, you're trying to sell me something. No, I'm good. And so what ends up happening is, any human would go, oh, I don't like that feeling. I don't want to make people feel like that. And they step back and they go, I don't want to sell. I don't want to sell. But it's really not the selling. It's that you haven't been properly taught how to basically teach these people about this and be able to effectively sell. I hate it on the forums when people are like, you're not selling, you're teaching. Well, kind of, because you can teach your way right out of a sale. I can tell you that. So, we, even in teaching the doctors is where, kind of my next step would go is getting the doctors on board and comfortable with being able to recommend, prescribe, but ultimately have this conversation with these patients where, yes, they're selling. And if it's done the right way, it doesn't feel like it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's all about, I know, I look at sales, and you know me, I come from a sales background, right? It's informed choice. And if you think about it, that's really all it is we're informing choice. And I think it's also something fascinating regarding kind of like modern sales and modern marketing. Now we're going off on tangents because it's time to, and as a matter of fact, something that you mentioned and that a couple of our live viewers, what Steve Alexander and Raymond Castro said, because the way we've always done it, it's not a good reason to keep things from happening, right? Just because it's the way we've always done it. So,
right.
Talking about the way we've always done it, you and your team at Spexy are leading something incredibly innovative. That is not at all the way we've always done it. So why don't you bring us home, Kayla, and share a little bit about what you all do at Spexy, and also how folks can connect with you all.
Yeah. Well, so at Spexy kind of has two, I'm going to call them separate offerings, but they really coexist very nicely. So we have our Spexy Plus membership, which allows you and your entire team to have access to our online learning portal, which you can think of it kind of as like Netflix for online learning. So your team, you have, we have new hire trainings in there. We've got leadership trainings. We've got trainings that help your management set up really awesome and effective office meetings, because how many office meetings turn into like little gripe sessions where everyone's just sitting there, you know, complaining.
Yeah. Do you know why? Do you know why they turn into that? Do you know why they turn into that?
Because they don't know any better.
Because there's no structure. There's no agenda. That's it, right? Right. If there's no agenda, and I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. But we have a whole course that basically will structure out, okay, this is what your training is going to be on. And have them watch this video because we're going to train them for you. And here's how you can implement it in your office. And here's how you can, incentivize them. And then you drive it home with saying, here's the business metrics of how it's going to affect your business. It's amazing. Yeah. So anyway, you can go in there Netflix style and choose, any type of topic that you would like. And so that is the online learning portal that we have with Spexy Plus, our Spexy Plus membership. And then we have Spexy Plus Premium. Now, Spexy Plus Premium is pretty rad because we actually, it includes all of that learning. Plus, it also includes Frame Turn. And Frame Turn is a product that allows for us to work with you on your unique sales data on your frame inventory. And basically, we're able to, it's like having another set of eyes and ears, actually our whole team of eyes and ears on your optical, where we can expose different areas where we can, we can literally tell you, hey, this brand is doing well. You need to increase the board space allotment by this much, or you need to decrease it by this much, or you are actually retailing this a little off. Here's how other people in your area are retailing it, or other people in the industry that are in, the same size as you. Like the amount of information that we're able to help independent opticals run with is absolutely phenomenal. So we've got those are our two little umbrellas, but that's Spexy. And we're offering things to be able to be super inexpensive. We never have contracts, not at Spexy. No, we go with the philosophy of you stay with us as long as you love us, so that you can leave at any time. And I think it works out really well because very few people actually leave. So
absolutely. And, Kayla, it's amazing stuff right now. Obviously amazing stuff going on in the industry as it pertains to just different ways to develop teams, and hands down amazing stuff that you all are doing at Spexy. By the way, hit us with the website once more if anybody missed it.
Yeah, it's bespexy.com. So B-E and Spexy, S-P-E-X-Y, BESPEXY.com. If you Google us, you'll probably just pop up. We'll probably pop right out up there.
Yeah, the one and only. Well, hey, for everyone that joined us here on this episode of Akrinos Access Live, where we're hanging out with Kayla Ashlee, talking about developing your modern eye care dream team. We hope you found this valuable. If you want to learn more about how Spexy can help your practice get to the next level with your people development, visit bespexy.com. And for everything you need to make it happen here in this amazing environment we're playing in across the practice life cycle, from cold start to mature, thriving practice. Find everything you need at akrinos.com. Kayla, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Till next time.
Bye.
Oh, wait up. I hit the wrong button because it was supposed to be the button to make the little song.
Oh, we're still live? Okay, so do we keep
Yeah, we are still live. Okay, so now we're gonna sign off. Say bye.
Okay, bye. Bye. That was awesome. Oh, we're still live. That's amazing.
Is it still live or is it ending? It's showing the wheels turning around.